The alarm shrieked through Station Meridian's security center at 0347 hours. Protocol Officer Thex's four eyes widened as the tracker data scrolled across his screen. 6 Vexian cubs, offspring of the diplomatic delegation, had left their quarters. Their biosignatures were moving through the station's lower levels, heading toward the human residential sector. Code Yellow, Thex announced, his mandibles clicking rapidly. Possible abduction in progress. Within minutes, a security team assembled. The Vexians were crucial to the trade negotiations. Their cubs going missing could trigger an interstellar incident. Thex pulled up the surveillance feeds, trying to understand what had happened. The footage showed the cubs, each no larger than a human toddler, with downy purple fur and oversized ears, slipping out of their suite. But there was no sign of force. No intruder. The cubs had opened the door themselves and walked out with deliberate purpose. They're heading to Section 7G, Security Chief Morik noted, her scales rippling with concern. That's the human engineer's quarters. The human? Thex felt a chill. Humans were still new to the galactic community. Nobody quite understood them yet. They came from a death world where everything tried to kill everything else. What would such a creature want with Vexian cubs? Wake the parents. Assemble a tactical team, Morik ordered. Carefully. We don't know what we're dealing with. Kalen woke to a soft scratching at his door. He checked the time, nearly 4 in the morning by station standard. He'd been up late repairing one of the station's filtration systems, and his body ached for sleep. The scratching came again, more insistent. Frowning, Kalen rolled out of bed and shuffled to the door. When it slid open, he looked down to find 6 pairs of enormous eyes staring up at him. 6 small, furry bodies crowded in his doorway. "Oh," Kalen said softly. "Hello there." The cubs chittered at him, their large ears twitching. The one in front, slightly larger than the others, stepped forward and raised its small arms toward him. Kalen recognized them from the station. The Vexian diplomatic party had arrived 3 weeks ago. He'd seen the cubs playing in the observation deck while their parents attended meetings. He'd waved at them once. They'd waved back. "Are you guys lost?" Kalen crouched down to their level. The lead cub, Kalen would later learn his name was Vash, shook his head firmly. He pointed at Kalen, then at himself and his siblings, then made a hugging gesture. "You want to come in?" All 6 cubs nodded enthusiastically. Kalen glanced down the corridor. Empty. Something in his gut told him these cubs weren't in danger, at least not from him. But someone might be looking for them. "All right," he said quietly. "Come on in. Let's figure this out." The cubs rushed past him with delighted chirps. They scattered across his small quarters, exploring everything with the boundless curiosity of children everywhere. Vash remained close to Kalen, reaching up to hold his hand, but Kalen's chest tightened. The small paw in his felt warm and trusting. "Let me send a message to your parents," Kalen said, reaching for his comm unit. Vash chittered urgently and pulled on his hand, shaking his head. The other cubs had gathered around Kalen's bed, looking at him hopefully. "You don't want me to call them?" Vash pointed to the bed, then patted his own chest and his siblings, then pointed at Kalen. Understanding dawned slowly. "You want to sleep here? With me?" All 6 cubs nodded, their eyes shining. Kalen had no idea what to do, but the cubs looked so certain, so determined. He thought about calling security, but something stopped him. These weren't prisoners or packages. They were children who had made a choice. "Okay," Kalen said softly, "but I'm sending a message so nobody panics." He sent a quick text to the station's information desk. "Vexian cubs are safe in my quarters. They came here on their own. No emergency." Then he looked at the 6 expectant faces. His bed wasn't large, but it would have to do. "Come on then," he said, pulling back the covers. The cubs scrambled onto the bed with excited chirps. They burrowed into the blankets, their small bodies creating a warm, squirming pile. Vash positioned himself right against Kalen's chest, tiny paws gripping his shirt. Kalen lay down carefully, and the cubs immediately settled against him. Their purring started almost instantly, a soft, thrumming sound that vibrated through his ribcage. Within minutes, all 6 were asleep. Kalen stared at the ceiling, wide awake, his heart pounding. He had 6 alien children in his bed. This was probably against a dozen regulations. But the warm weight of them, the trust they showed, made something in his chest ache that he understood loneliness. He'd been lonely for most of his life. Maybe they had too, When the security team arrived at Kalen's door 20 minutes later, Thex expected the worst. Morik overrode the door lock, and they burst in with weapons ready. They found Kalen in bed, one finger pressed to his lips in a universal gesture for silence. Around him, 6 Vexian cubs slept peacefully, their small bodies nestled against the human like he was the safest thing in the universe. They came here on their own, Kalen whispered. They wanted to stay. Thex's translator struggled with the concept. Wanted? They chose this. Yes. Before anyone could respond, Ambassador Kelrix and her mate rushed into the room. Thex prepared for outrage, for accusations, for diplomatic catastrophe. Instead, Kelrix stopped short, her ears folding back in surprise. She stared at her sleeping cubs, at the human who held them so carefully, and her expression softened into something Thex couldn't quite identify. I apologize, she said quietly. They've been doing this since we arrived. Every night, they try to leave. We thought they were frightened of the station. They weren't running from something, Kalen said softly. They were running to something. Kelrix stepped closer, studying her cubs. Vash had Kalen's shirt clutched in both paws, even in sleep. On our world, Kelrix explained, cubs sleep in large family groups. The whole clan, all together. Here, it's just the 8 of us. They've been miserable. She looked at Kalen with something like wonder. But you, they trust you. I didn't do anything special, Kalen protested. You let them choose, Kelrix said simply. You respected their decision. She paused. Would you? Would you be willing to do this again? Until we leave the station? It would mean a great deal to them. Kalen looked down at the sleeping cubs, at Vash's peaceful face. Yeah, he said softly. I'd be honored. Morik cleared her throat. This is highly irregular. Perhaps, Kelrix replied. But my cubs are happy. That is what matters. As the security team filed out, Thex found himself revising his understanding of humans. They were predators, yes. From a death world, certainly. But maybe that wasn't the whole story. Maybe the same world that taught humans to be dangerous had also taught them to be kind. Inside the quarters, Kalen settled back into the blankets. Vash stirred briefly, chirped softly, and burrowed closer. The other cubs unconsciously shifted, maintaining contact with him. For the first time in a long while, Kalen didn't feel lonely at all, and 6 small cubs, far from home, finally felt safe.